All right, guys, we are back again. COVID Cabal, September 15th. What is up, people? What is up, people? What is up? What is up with the team today? We've got a primetime spot. Look, you guys got to be so happy right now. You guys got to be so happy that now I have set up COVID Cabal as a standard throughout the week. We got COVID Cabal, guaranteed COVID Cabal 3 times a week. Let's be honest, it's probably not going to be guaranteed every week. But we've got on schedule 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:15 p.m. COVID Cabal, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. We're doing it. We got COVID Cabal going on, guys. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about too. That's the thing. I was like, there's too much going on. We got to get back in it. Now's not the time to be leaning out. So if you guys are here, anybody who's here, leave a comment in the chat. Leave a comment in the chat. We are going live with COVID Cabal right now. And this is going to be an interesting conversation for you guys today. I think that you guys are gonna like this today. This is another thinking man's episode for COVID Cabal, okay? I know that sometimes we like to just be a little bit of wild. We like to wild out. But today we're gonna be thinking. Because I got to be honest with you guys. I don't want to be like all those people who think they know the answer to stuff when I don't think I know the answer to stuff. I want to point out what we know and what we don't know, where the discrepancies are, where they aren't. And let's see if we can come to some sort of understanding about what is actually happening. And we may not know today, but I want to be tracking what is happening here. I want to be tracking it and trying to figure it out. So here is the big dilemma that I am facing when it comes to my analysis of not only just Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's situation is definitely the most acute. It kind of brings it all to a head. But this has been a conversation that's been happening all throughout the entire Trump administration, and that really became a big thing during both Epstein and became a big thing during the drama with Iran, right? And that is this dual argument. You have these two competing arguments that are going on right now. The first argument is one which I'm sure you guys have seen everywhere, which is that it's just the Jews. The Jews are doing everything. The Jews control the American government. The Jews control the world. And we are Zionist-occupied government. And, you know, depending on how extreme you want to go with that take, you either say that Trump is working with the Zionists, Trump is a Zionist, or you say Trump is controlled by the Zionists. Trump has no minimal options when it comes to dealing with the Zionists. And that it's, you know, everything just comes back to the Jews. And in the case of Charlie Kirk, that Charlie Kirk was an example of this, because Charlie Kirk was groomed and brought up by them, and then he was going off reservation. He was, you know, speaking out more against Netanyahu, speaking out more against the things that Israel was doing. Refused to take Netanyahu's money for TPUSA, and so they killed the Jews. The Israelis killed Charlie Kirk in a hopes of moving the narrative towards, you know, trying to stop him, because he had so much influence among the youth in particular, to try to stop him from having this big, you know, from turning people more anti-Jewish, and that now they can use him as a martyr. This is the argument about why it made sense to kill him. That now he's like a martyr. They can try to spin it, because he had still been mostly pro-Jewish. They could spin him as a martyr for, you know, not only just Christians, but that he was also for Jews, and to try to create, you know, really re-cement the Zionist Christian alliance in the country. So that's one. And you know, so okay, so to finish that thought, to the extent that like the DSA, tranny guy, um, Tyler Robinson, his group of tranny paramours, that this group of nut jobs are really just patsies, and that this is really just coming from the Jews, from the Zionists. So that's one whole thing of argumentation. Okay. Then you have the other one, which is, and there's going to be two variants of that, right? The main variant is that this is the radical left, DSA types, who have been encouraged and propped up all of these years by some Jews, but that this is basically just, this is the left, which is a different group, and they killed Charlie Kirk for very linear, straightforward reasons, that they are communist revolutionaries, and Charlie Kirk humiliated this guy, Tyler Robinson, right? And that these people are being groomed in Discord chat groups and radicalized. And some of that has to do with the conditions of society, right? Social alienation, but also probably they're being directed by rogue intelligence agents to do this assassination attempt. I think most people on this side of the argument believe that he was not a lone actor. They understand that he got, he was probably part of a network of people, and they want that. So I'm going to stick to that main argument, because I haven't really heard people thinking like this is a lone radical. People, they may have think he was a lone gunman, but that they don't necessarily know that they know that he was part of a bigger group. Rudy, since you just got here, very, very quickly, I'm basically trying to outline the two arguments. Is it the Jews, just the Jews doing everything, or is it the DSA communist left that killed him? And so the layers to that second argument are that, okay, I'm trying to think of how to put this. This stuff is really complicated. What I just said is not complicated. The next level of this is complicated. And I know, like, this is an argument for sophisticated COVID cabal people. Okay. I'm telling you guys this because you're an intelligent audience by and large, right? By and large. No, you guys all are. I don't think there's anybody slow in here. You got to keep up. You got to keep up. This is an intelligent audience. But the argument is that just as linear as it is, or is there a higher level to it, that they are using one of these narratives against the other? So do you have, is it that the Jews are trying to frame the DSA? It's just the Jews, and they're trying to frame the communists who they also backed, and are they doing that to try to now swing? This is kind of complicated argument. Are they, did they create that group just to destabilize America? And is that just a front because they want to draw attention away from themselves because those people hate Jews? Or is it that these are both assets, or the Jews, the Zionists, let's say, and the DSA Communist Front, are they assets between, they're being used by a higher group? And some people call this the City of London. But the point is that this is like where the real epicenter of the cabal, these European globalists. I say European globalists because they've mostly come out of Europe, but they are global. It's a global group that, whether you're talking about the Bank of International Settlements, they control the central banking, the financial stuff, some of which are Jewish, but not all of them. And they have goals beyond the propagation of any individual group. Okay. So those are the sort of two camps, and I just added a more sophisticated layer to it for the second one. So, all right. Here's the short answer for you guys. I don't know the answer. That's the short answer. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not saying that to be obtuse. I have really been I've been thinking about this for months. Ever since the Iran thing, I've been thinking about it. But I am I feel like I have an idea of what's going on here, but nothing is entirely fitting yet. That doesn't mean it won't fit. Well, John, this is a given. This is a given. I mean, the FBI, I'm not talking about cash, by the way, but within the FBI itself, there's still tons and tons of rogue agents. And it may not even be FBI, it could be a different intelligence agency. And this gets into the whole stuff. Like, so the linear answer is this. This is my opinion on a linear front. I have really like tried to search for the motive. Like, I know the arguments why they're saying the Jews killed Charlie Kirk. I got to be honest, guys. I do not find it very persuasive, and I'm not saying that because it would make things a lot clearer, make things a lot more obvious. So I kind of wish that that was the case, but I'm not finding it. First off, I'm just not finding it very persuasive. Okay, that doesn't mean that there wasn't some intelligence agency activity behind the scenes, but I'm just speaking strictly from the perspective of, if you're trying to make the case that this was going to this was going to make people love Jews in America. I don't think, you can already see it did none of this, really. It really did not have any impact on that front. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is that there are no credible indications that Charlie Kirk had become an enemy of Israel. There is a big difference between saying, I'm not going to accept Netanyahu's money, and to make a few, questioning comments about things and being anti-Israel. And I'm going to tell you this, and this is actually, to me, one of the really big, alarms that were ringing, is that the people who were saying that all the various influencers and posters who were saying that Israel killed him were promoting things and theories that were false. Okay, so that's never a good thing when you see that, because when you start to like that dude, like George Zinn on the ground, a lot of that stuff was really blown out of proportion. Like, this guy was a lunatic. Like, he was like in Arizona on like college campuses saying all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, he actually seems like a lunatic. The guy who was there who said, no, get me. And I'm not saying, look, don't worry. I'm not saying that he's not involved. I'm just saying he very well could be a crazy person, because his entire track record of his life is being a nutcase. And I don't know why he was interviewed for 9/11. So I'm not like, but he was living in Colorado. He wasn't living in New York City. So I don't know why he was interviewed. Again, I'm not denying the intelligence agency connection with him, but it's not, that's like, even like, that's just that you can actually explain some of his behavior at this point a little bit more of him just being a lunatic. Because if you actually look at his track record with events and law enforcement, he says all sorts of crazy shit all the time. And he just seems to be one of those people who, whenever there's some sort of political thing or speaking, he puts himself right out there at front. And there are crazy people like that in this world. I just want to say there are crazy people like that. They have no other, they're off their rocker in some way. So put that to the side. But it's been a lot of other things, like people saying Ben Shapiro's taking over TPUSA. That wasn't true, right? That wasn't true. He just said a rhetorical statement. I'm going to pick up the mic. He didn't say he was taking it over, but all those anti-Israel people were spreading all this stuff around. And I've seen that a lot. I'll give you another example. This is a new one, right? Here's a new one. So this was something that people were saying that, that they had that he was in a combative mood the night before talking to this rabbi. And they were establishing it like that Charlie was like, that they were trying to bully him the night before. Well, first off, at that point, let's think this through for a second, okay? Why would Israel be trying to bully him into talking points the night before when they're going to fucking kill him the next day? All right. So let's think about that for a second. It doesn't even make any sense on its face to try to be like, Yeah, we have to like we have to try to convince him. They're not going to call off the op at that point. It's too late in the game. So, the night before his assassination, Charlie Kirk met with Israeli National Rabbi Pesach Volitsky to discuss how to defend Israel effectively on campus. During their conversation, Kirk was arguing for the anti-Israel side, even if only rhetorically. He was working out talking points, playing the role of devil's advocate, pushing us on these issues, trying to sharpen the ire, Volitsky said. He was in a combative mood, which is good. They took this out of context, right? He was preparing for debates and attacks, the rabbi added. Now, look, people who are saying, read between the lines, read between the lines. No, really, that's not what was happening. I will read between the lines, okay? I will read between the lines. I was in debate before, and that is actually how you prep for a debate. You prep for a debate. The only reason you become good at debating people is by understanding the other side's arguments. Okay? So this is one of the things like when I see commentary that is deliberately misleading, deliberately obtuse, and really stupid and to a certain extent, like overreaching. There's just a lot of overreaching. It makes me lose faith and credibility in the argument that they're trying to make. So Charlie Kirk, maybe he was going another direction because he Charlie Kirk kind of paced where the mainstream was and he guided it, but he also followed it, right? As any person who is an influencer in the middle does. And he knew that things were moving in that direction. I've listened to all these clips that they say Charlie was going super anti-Israel. Charlie was saying the same kind of stuff that I say about Israel, more or less. I mean, when he was talking about Israel's ethnic cleansing in Gaza, he wasn't saying it even in a super critical manner. Okay, he was saying this is what they're doing. He just said it. He just this is what they're doing, and they're doing it because they've had enough of it. He wasn't saying it like Israel is, the last. So a lot of these people, they're actually trying to manipulate Charlie's legacy to be a little bit more than it was. Now, was he upset with Netanyahu and was he pushing back? I certainly think he was. I think all of us are fucking sick and tired of Israel. We are. We are all sick and tired of it. Okay. But Charlie was not anything close to like a Fuentes. And Charlie, whenever he did criticize Israel, he was always very, very, very clear to indicate when he talked about like Jewish influence in politics, he was very, very clear to indicate that most Jews weren't a part of that. So I don't understand why Israel would kill somebody like this, because nobody at this point is like, Israel's just losing its position anyway. That's happening. It's happening because people are tired of the nonstop pro-Israel stuff. So okay, here, and this is where, and I want you guys to be patient with me on this. Or I don't even be patient. I want you to be open-minded, because many people are going to think I am reaching too much. And maybe I am reaching. That's why I said I don't know the answer here. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say this, okay? People who have known about Israeli influence in American politics have been complaining about it. They have been complaining about it for decades. They've been complaining about it, definitely all the 9/11 truthers, and they were crushed, right? They were crushed for talking about this stuff, about the manipulation of Israel and American politics. Okay. And all of this stuff was totally like you just didn't really have a leg to stand on with it. Okay. And all of a sudden, it went from being this thing that you really couldn't speak about, you would get deplatformed from immediately for talking about it, to being something that is literally all over the place all the time. Okay? Now, you could view this in one perspective and just say it's escape containment. And that's why I said, like, I want this to be like well understood. I want to talk about this. I want to try to understand it. You could just say it broke containment, the idea of Jewish control and influence over American politics. I just broke containment. That's what happened. And as a result of that, um, it's just all over and that's it, right? But it certain influencers just kind of blew up very, very quickly with their influence on this stuff. And I'm just telling you, like, for people who for institutions that really don't want that around, it really seems like it's all over the place and everybody who talks about it just becomes more promoted and more popular. What I'm trying to get at here is that I smell some sort of op going on. I'm not saying that that means that Israel is not guilty of the things that it's been guilty of, but what I want to offer here is that, is Israel just a tool on the board of these chess masters and an asset to be used, in that they had been using it for a long period of time and they are burning that asset? Are they the same thing with the trannies and with the left? Are they trying to create some sort of conflict situation? Is that what it is? Are they trying to make you think? Are they trying to make this big division going on within society over it? I don't know. Here's the thing. When I look at, I'm gonna try to bring something up here. When I look at stuff like this, there are two different ways I can look at this. This, like, 50 states, one Israel, and they're doing the somewhere over the rainbow, which those of us who know, you know, those of us who know that this is an MK Ultra thing. I mean, Liz said it right there out front, right? But this is all in everybody's face. Like, we have a conspiracy culture. Since 2020, conspiracy theories broke containment. This is what I want to get at, and this is why I call this the conspiracy double fake. Since 2020, conspiracy theories broke containment, in the sense that everybody saw that they were real. So what do these people do when everybody starts to believe something? They can't control the fact that people are going to believe in conspiracies anymore. What they do is, and then they start to play off of that. So they start to, so first, a lot of the early stuff in the conspiracy theory world is that they just made distortions of so they had people in alternative media who would take these ideas and they twist parts of them. And you look at that in the Q community and other things, a lot of, like, fucking Looney Tunes people as a result. Okay. But eventually it gets to a point where they start to push stuff that is, it's like, yeah, this is what they're doing. See, they're still doing it. See, they're still doing it. I don't know, man. The fact that, like, Congress is so bootlicking to Jews right now, in the face of such collapse, hostility. Like, what I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to say is this. Maybe it's just that they're really fucking stupid and delusional, and they don't understand how much they are attriting support, both on the left and on the right. But I can't help but think that a group that successfully hid in the shadows for a very, very long time in the mainstream would, in a moment like this, really downplay so much of this stuff. But instead, I'm seeing the opposite. Instead, I'm seeing them become more and more flagrant and open than ever. And what I'm just trying to say here is that it smells like there is some psyop going on. Nick Fuentes' rise, he's a brilliant orator, but his rise is not, it is not a organic thing. And people who are paying attention can see that very clearly. It's not organic. Okay. And I'm sorry, if this pisses off some of the unity among the right, but Fuentes is his speech, the words were very nice about what he said about Charlie Kirk and about coming together and everything. But I don't know if you guys can't read body language. I was looking at his body language. I was looking at his face, and man, I was fucking nauseated. It was so fake. And if you know about him from people who have like, Matt Forney was saying that he had heard from friends. I don't know if Matt's making that up or not, but I'm just gonna tell you, it's definitely true. It was totally insincere. And Fuentes is out there and he's saying, "What's Trump doing? Why won't wasn't Charlie his friend? Why isn't Trump doing anything to help him?" Fuentes is not a friend of Trump. Fuentes campaigned with Kanye West. He campaigned for Kamala Harris. Fuentes is not somebody who represents the Charlie Kirk kind of right. Charlie Kirk says, get married, have kids, bring hope, love. He was a saint, right? Fuentes doesn't embody any of that stuff. Okay. And one of the reasons, and by the way, the Groypers did not do this crime. Okay. I know that the left is trying to spread that they did it. A Groyper didn't do this. We don't know about which was it Mossad was the intelligence agency that was working with these people. Is that part of the double layer? But there's no question that on a pawn level, on a patsy level, it was Antifa, tranny group, whatever, on Discord. No dispute there. Any attempt to tie the Groypers to this is its own thing, right? It's fake. But the reason why it's somewhat believable is because spiritually there is actually not a lot of difference between these two types. I mean, that's going to piss some people off, but it's true. If you are somebody who's just angry and resentful, terminally online, you're not forming, healthy relationships with the opposite sex. I mean, Fuentes hates white women. So, I mean, you want to talk about, like, a lot of this stuff is always, like, trashing white women. So there's a lot of stuff here. If you're trying to create if you're looking at this from a spiritual energy perspective, and you're looking at, what sort of people would you want to elevate in a movement to sabotage them from the other direction? Because if the country is moving right, this is one of the things you have to understand. They know that there are natural swings in the pendulum. So what they do is they try to push and distort those natural swings. So rather than being able to come to a real unity point, which is what Charlie Kirk would have wanted, where we have a healthy, functioning American republic that values free speech, we've come together as a people. Rather than come to that, they want us to fall into some sort of destabilized swing of hate, right? That's what they want. And so it makes sense that you see the country, they have their asset on the left and they have the left doing these things. They push it to the limit where it's like crazy, crazy training stuff. They can't win, right? They can't win that. So what do? They start to pull on the right a new opposition to fight against the old one that they had. And so that then they can burn the trannies and the left because they know that's gonna they know it's exhausted, right? And then they can use the destruction of that one asset to build up the next asset on the other side. So then they can have the country swing in that direction and do its own thing. That's also negative. This is the point here. You can't trust that guy after January 6th. Fuentes is the only one besides for Ray Epps who was on the Capitol, who was telling people to go into the Capitol, and who was never arrested. Okay? I'm sorry. Anybody if you're really paying attention, you can tell it's not organic. And if you're also really paying attention, you can tell the message is not positive and constructive. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot of truth in it. It might be 80% true. That's not the point, though. The point is that it is not taking people in a good direction. And what I have to just point out is that you kill Charlie Kirk. Who has the most influence on the right outside of Charlie Kirk? It's not Ben Shapiro. You have all these anti-Israel people who are saying, look, Ben Shapiro is going to take up the mantle. But we know Ben Shapiro is not going to take up the mantle. Ben Shapiro is a has-been. Nobody can stand him. He is becoming less popular because of partly the stuff with, he can't get off the Zionist shtick. He has no balanced perspective. He's a hack. It's the same thing with a lot of these people like Mark Levin. You can be right on a lot of issues, you can be good on some things, but you can be fundamentally a hack because you have no objectivity on a certain issue, and people are tired of that. Well, people like Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk was willing to learn and was adjusting his position as he learned more information. The point is you killed Charlie Kirk. You don't have the momentum is not going towards Ben Shapiro, it's going towards Nick Fuentes. Who benefited from Charlie Kirk dying? Nick Fuentes. Again, that doesn't mean a Groyper did this. But what it does mean is that the people the Groypers are telling you did this doesn't make any sense for them to do it if you're viewing this from a pro-Israel standpoint, or this is about helping the Jews, because killing Charlie Kirk makes all of Charlie Kirk's audience not become more pro-Jewish. It makes them go to Fuentes to listen, especially when Fuentes comes up and starts talking with this little schmarmy face, talking about, he was such a great man, and he was my rival, and look, it was well said. That's the thing that drives me crazy. I know he's so good at it, but it was fake. And if you look at his, I don't want to sound like one of these people. Okay. I want to sound like one of these people. But you have to, somebody's character, and that they're ultimately, that it's not real because their character. Okay. And their real objectives. So look, here's the point. Is it possible that we are in a setup right now that the group, that Israel is just it's been a pawn on the stage that they've been using, and that they're now using to sacrifice, or at least they're using the tension of it to build up more resentment and issues, right? Are they going to try to use them as a sacrificial lamb? The difficulty, of course, is that there has been enormous amounts of bad behavior from that community. And, but it's really notable. Like, you have someone like Mandami who hates, right? He hates Netanyahu. He hates the Jews, etc. Half of the Jews in New York City want to vote for Mandami. And that's not, and more may vote for him anyway in the end, right? Because the other half are not voting for a conservative. So this is the point I'm trying to make. And I know I'm going to lose people because it's a more complicated argument, and you do have to watch about going too far with this stuff. You have to watch about overthinking. But something definitely is not correct in what's going on here. That doesn't mean I don't think, there is not still lots of pressure and back and forth that Trump and Netanyahu have with each other. There's issues. But I still don't see any evidence. You had JD Vance today talking, like, in Tucker, talking about the stuff with Israel. It's the vice president. They're talking about this stuff openly. They're going after these, these leftist networks and everything. That's going to happen. Like, Trump, JD, like, these are people who are on the side of trying to clean up the country. They're not talking in a radical manner. So when you hear people talk about how, they're trying to, like, the Trump's with the Zionists and everything like that, I don't ever hear statements that indicate that kind of stuff. I do see cooperation with Israel, and I do see that there is some degree of political wrangling, and maybe there's some, I don't think blackmail against Trump, but there are constraints. There's some constraints. There's no question that we let Israel go and wipe out Hamas's leadership in Qatar. I'm not saying we did it, but we let them do it. So I'm just saying this is complicated. But if you just say, well, Trump is a Zionist, Trump just supports Zionist measures, there's not a lot that, he hasn't been giving Israel everything that they wanted. And there is some game that's going on here. There's something else that's happening behind the scenes. And I can't put the whole thing together yet, but I can just tell you that this whole, like, it's a new narrative. And I think it's very hard for us to wrap our heads around this, because how do I put this? We like to think we woke up. You know what I mean? We like to think we woke up. We woke up and now we understand everything that's happening, everything that they're doing. But we have to always be aware that these people are master manipulators. And the second we think that we have it all figured out is when they rug pull us in the other direction. I think that this group is losing fundamentally. But if you are losing and an asset as having diminishing returns, it just definitely would not surprise me if they were trying to throw our country off course by making us be by trying to distract us and to corrupt us in that other direction. So this is food for thought. And I'm gonna keep thinking about this, but I'm not. But you know, when I see Marco Rubio at the Wailing Wall, when I see like more things like we got to give you know more, we have to do more. Oh, this was another thing I want to say actually. They were saying this bill, people on that side of the spectrum, we're talking about this bill where they could get rid of people for anti-Semitism in the country. But really what the bill said is it talked about terrorism, and they said, well, that can be used against enemies of Israel. But that's kind of like a deceptive statement, right? Because we're dealing with a terror group in the country. So if we're talking about getting rid of people from the country who have been involved with terrorism, like you can't just twist that automatically and say, oh, that's a pro-Israel thing when we're dealing with the SA types. So anyway, guys, I think there's like a needle to thread here, and I believe that they are trying to pull us into a big civil war situation against of left versus right. And if part of the way that they motivate the hate on the right, if they can create a hate on the right, if they have to create that hate by having um, the Jews as a scapegoat, I think that they'll definitely do it, and it's going to be not impossible to do, considering the Jews have created so much bad karma. But that doesn't mean that that is the full picture and that that is the correct thing. I keep an open mind about this, and we're going to keep monitoring it. When we do our next COVID cabal, we're going to keep paying attention. But I see a lot of reaching to try to tie this attack to Mossad. I just see a lot of reaching, and I looked at all the photos. I looked at the photos of they're saying that there was another shooter. And by the way, I'm not saying that the storyline makes sense right now. The storyline's getting more jumbled. Like, I don't know if this is completely accurate, but official narrative: drives to campus in one outfit, changes clothes, shoots, leaves with no gun on foot, ditches guns, changes into prior outfit, goes back to car, drives 250 miles home, confesses to dad, turns himself in, now denies guilt. I don't know if that is actually what they're saying, because it is, to be honest, like, it seems like kind of a mess to me. I know one of the big issues is him taking the gun off the roof. Where is the gun? How does he carry it, then leave it? There's all sorts of issues with this. So there's still shenanigans going on, but man, I was looking at all this footage saying like, oh yeah, like Charlie Kirk's like Jewish security guard or whatever, Zionist security guard. That guy in the crowd shot him next to it. Man, like, they're saying the bullet, it was coming from the complete opposite direction, that guy firing, but the bullet hits here. Like, there's a lot of fake shit going on out there is what I'm trying to say. So really stay frosty. Okay? Stay frosty. Try to There's more to this shooting than meets the eye, and we are definitely dealing with tons and tons of issues within our intelligence agencies. But Trump is going to get these people. Trump is going to get these people. And I just pay attention to the psyops as best as you can. And if you guys see things that are interesting, please, I only have so much bandwidth. I got a business to run, a family. If you see things that are interesting, feel free to DM me it. I always appreciate that. May help me to think more about this stuff. And this is actually a good thing to end on. Bibi has a COVID-19 vaccine display in his office. It's very interesting, isn't it? And the most vaccinated country in the world was Israel. So, does that really make him somebody who really loves the Jews? I don't know. I don't know about that. But We'll see, guys. Anyway, I hope this was useful, some food for thought. But yeah, there's definitely some shenanigans going on. We don't have the full picture yet, but I'll say this: if you trust Trump, and if you can't trust Trump, then again, call it in because it's over. It's over. And think about that for a second. If that's the message people are saying, then how do we get this far already? You have someone like Charlie Kirk genuinely representing very good things for people. The core of this team really wants the best for people. Everything is not about trying to create hate. It's about trying to create order in a fair way. But there are some on the right who definitely want you to fall into hate and despair. And whenever you see that, just be fucking cautious. I'm telling you, be cautious, because that is the exact same weapon that the enemy uses, and they use it on the left all the time. You're a victim. You're a victim. Don't start to see that stuff on the right. It's all about self-empowerment and sovereignty. If you ever start to get into stuff like give up, it's over. It's coming from the enemy. I'm telling you. If they didn't start it, they're gonna back it. They're gonna boost it. All right. I'll see you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time for Dynamic Man. We're actually going to be talking about Erica Kirk. So if you guys who are more interested in the COVID cabal politics side of things, you might like tomorrow's Dynamic Man podcast, because we'll be talking about those aspects with a woman and choosing a woman. All right. Great seeing you guys. I'll see you next time.